Hi, it's Bea with Crafting Daily Dose, and today I have an alternative for the January 2023 paper pumpkin kit called Key to My Heart. Here I've used pieces from the kit to convert it into a fun fold that opens up like this. Most of the supplies here are from the kit itself. I just added a little bit of cardstock and I did some heat embossing here, but that's optional. If you'd like the key to making this card, then stay tuned. Here are the pieces that I'm using to make this project. Now I'm using this card base from the kit, but there's a similar one in fresh freesia and the design can work with this one as well. I've got 2 of the lock die cuts and the banner die cut from the kit, and then I added this optional piece of basic white cardstock. It's 1 7/8 of an inch across by 5 1/4 inches in height. In addition to stamping with the fresh freesia ink from the kit, I'm also stamping with clear Versamark ink so that I can do heat embossing with gold embossing powder. We've got everything gathered and now we're ready to start. We're going to begin by preparing the card base, and I'm going to turn it so that I'm working on the part here that's got the gold lines. I'm going to score this halfway down the front of the card base, and so halfway is at 2 1/8. Notice that I'm using the lighter gray blade, which is for scoring. I don't want to accidentally cut this. Here's what this looks like so far, and now I'm going to go ahead and fold along the score line and reinforce it with my bone folder. Now our card base is prepared and we're ready for stamping. I've got my silicone craft sheet down here for a little extra padding, and then I'm going to stamp onto the card base. I'm going to use strips of masking paper to section off an area on the right-hand side of the card for stamping. You can also use sticky notes here. I want to place one of the strips at 1/2 of an inch from the right edge. You can use a ruler here, but since I have my grid paper, I'll count off the squares for that. Each of those squares is 1/4 of an inch, so 1/2 inch is going to be 2 of those squares. And then I want the other strip to be 2 5/8 of an inch from the crease. That means I'm counting off 10 1/2 squares. Now that those are in place, I'm going to add some anti-static powder. And then I'll stamp the key using clear Versamark ink. I'm stamping randomly here, turning it in different directions to keep things interesting. Now I get to add my gold embossing powder, and I'm putting down a coffee filter just to catch the excess. Once I turn on the heat tool, it's always magic to watch that embossing powder melt. I like to get it started by heating from the bottom first to prevent any flyaways. Next, I'll stamp my sentiment onto the banner using the fresh freesia ink from the kit. If you're using the optional piece of basic white cardstock, you can choose to stamp some hearts along the bottom for decoration, or you can leave it plain to give yourself more room to write. And now we can already assemble. I'm using Stampin' Seal to add the white message panel here. I have about 1/8 of an inch gap at the top and at the bottom, and I'm using that as a reference so that I can get approximately the same amount of margin between this and the crease. And I'm just going to double check to make sure that that panel stays hidden when the card is closed. Next, I'll place the lock that I want to be hidden on this section. So I'll go ahead and put some glue on it. And I want to position it so that this part here, this arch, is pretty close to the fold. Now for the other lock, I want to position it so that when the card is all the way open, it's going to look like these two parts are interlocked with one another, like that. So that means that when the card is closed, I only want part of this to have glue underneath. So I'm just going to hold my finger here as a reference and only put glue on this half over here. I'd rather put too little than too much because I can always add more later if I need to. So I'm just going to place it back in the open position so that I can see what it's going to look like, and then just double check to see what it looks like when it's closed. And I might want to scoot that down a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then finally for the banner, same thing, you only want glue on one half of it. So you only want glue on this section here. And I'm going to place it so that it's centered on this panel. And that looks about right to me. So let's test it. I think that looks good. Now with glue, you have time to make little adjustments before that glue completely sets if you need to. Now, if you decide that you should need a little bit more glue here, then just take a little scrap of cardstock and put some glue on the end. You're going to use this like an applicator to kind of get in there and place a little bit more glue. You can do it right up to the edge. There's our finished card. We converted the supplies from the kit into a fun fold. Now I did add some extra things to step it up with the gold heat embossing and then a little extra piece of cardstock for the message panel, but those are optional. The card base is light enough that you can write your message without having this extra cardstock here. And if you didn't have the supplies for embossing, you can stamp those keys using the ink from the kit. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this dose of creativity. If you get a chance to make the project, I would love to see it. So share it in my Facebook group or tag me if you're sharing elsewhere. If you're interested in Paper Pumpkin but don't yet have a demonstrator, you can find the subscription link as well as all of my other links in the description box below. I hope to craft with you again next time, and until then, have a great day.